So thank you for having me to your wonderful country. Warwick told me to speak slow because I have a distinctive American accent. I don't know if that's possible. So cybersecurity, data security. A lot of times when we think of this, I did in the past, we think of firewalls and the IT guys and the real smart guys, make my network secure. So how many in this room are responsible for security at their firm? Okay. All of you should have raised your hand, and you'll find out why in a minute. And then how many actually do the work, actually configure firewalls and do all the tech stuff? Well, yeah, okay. One person, but most of you don't, like myself. So I had the pleasure of hiring a really smart CIO a few years back. She came from a 300-user Los Angeles firm, IP and entertainment law. And their firm was extremely advanced as far as security, working with the movie theaters and such. And she also used my product for about 20 years, so it was just a great fit. So she came in, and the first year, I had her go visit our clients. I mean, spend time, our product, go visit our client base. So we have about 6,500 law firms and corporate legal departments around the world. 1,500 would be corporate legal and larger firms, but 5,000 of them are small to mid firms. 5, 10 people, 15 people. It's kind of what we call our sweet spot. When you get into under 50 user firm, you very seldom have more than one IT, if you even have an IT person. You contract it, etc. So it didn't take her long to go out and see a few large clients. She was very comfortable there, and then meet with smaller clients. Who she met with there is probably the managing partner, paralegal that also handles different things, or secretary. And she was horrified when she came back. I have not too many more months of this because of the lack of security. I mean, don't they realize they need this, and Active Directory needs to be reconfigured? And that was when we started talking about security in reality. These firms don't have the huge resources that an AmLaw or a 1,000-attorney firm will have. They have the same requirements, though. They need to be secure, but they simply don't have it. And I thought that it might be good to start educating. We do document management, and we sell it through our resellers, and that's kind of a turn the crank, keep selling the product. But we need to do some other stuff. We need to help these firms protect the data that we store for them. So, among other things, she also looked inward and told us a few things to fix at our company, including me, which I didn't like very much. I happen to have a personal file sync tool that I used when I kind of wanted to. Even though we have a document management, and I got web access and iPhone access, there was just reasons why I wanted a file sync to my phone, and I would do it. And she never let up on that. So, thing I told her is great. I will forego that, get rid of my little personal tools, but find me something to allow me to work the way I want to work that's secure. So you're happy and I'm happy. Because guys like me, we're going to work the way we want to work. I've got some stories on that, but maybe I won't share them here. So convenience versus security, that's the thing that we all have to face when we're dealing with attorneys. You got your knowledge workers, and then you got IT over here. In a perfect world, the security over here, what would IT guys do? In a perfect world, you would unplug all internet access, you dust off your fax machines and bring them back out and put them on the counter. And sometimes you feel like doing that in this day and age. That would be the perfect security world. No one's going to get in or out. But reality, our clients probably would not come to us if we'd done that. So we have to be secure, but allow attorneys, workers to be have the convenience within reason. So ILTA is a large organization in the United States, International Legal Technology Organization. Association has been around for 30 years, I believe. And they do surveys every year of the top firms. And it's, for years, when we tracked this, email management was a problem. It was always the #1 problem. And because it continues to be a problem with the volume we have. Whether you have a DMS or not have, it's a problem. Last couple of years, just out of the blue, security and risk management. And you got to ask yourself, was that not a problem in 2010 or 2012 or 2000? No, it's always been a problem. But the awareness of it has just spiked through the top. Interesting enough, you'd think email management would be number 2, right? That's still a problem we all have. But no, managing expectations of users and the user's acceptance of change. Those are actually items up there. I can't believe that. So when we talk about taking security initiatives, we have to look at the users and the acceptance of that there. So something I want you all to remember is security or data security at your firm is everyone's responsibility. We were at this last ILTA. We sponsored an information governance section, cocktail mingle, and they were chatting about different people, about what they're doing at their firms for security and some different tips. And one guy that led it off, he started with, I got my 150 IT staff, and here's how I do it, blah, blah, blah. And then the next guy next to me said, all 4,000 of my users are on top of security, and that's my team. They're all responsible for it. And next to me, I have a decent client for us, but there are 100 users. I think her and she has one other staff member at her firm. So it's nice to talk about all these high-tech solutions, but in reality, everybody has to do their part at the firm, or there's going to be more problems than there is. We don't have to go far before we hear and see about these exposures. And it's just every day, right? You guys over here, doesn't matter what country you're in, every day. But these, within reason, are third party. It's, you look at it and you say, that's, what a bummer. How could they do that, right? But you're not affected that much, within reason. So shortly after we started putting together this training sessions for our smaller firms, the government was hacked. The Office of Personnel Management, I think, 24 million records were released out in the public to government contractors, et cetera. And my developers and I were just kind of sitting around the coffee machine, just saying, well, this is terrible. How could they do that? This was a third party, wasn't affected. Well, my son had just gotten a job recently through a software company that's a government contractor, and he was excited because he got to get his security clearance. And it's great for me because last one off the payroll, some of you will know the feeling there. So never thought much of it, but as soon as we were talking about this OPM hack, my son calls me and said, hey, somebody from the government, so-and-so will be calling you because you and mom had to fill out all these forms for me as a reference, and all of your information is hacked along with the government employees. So all of a sudden that, kind of hit right here. It became real to me. Where it was third party before, but now, guess what? My information is hacked. And this is true at your firms. You can look at other firms and other things that are happening out there, but you don't want to have this happen, but when it hits your firm, it will become real. So what can we do to help with that? We have seen across the globe, even not just our FBI, but I saw a bunch in Australia and the UK, FBI and other agencies are warning law firms. Maybe Panama Papers was the first one that I really publicly seen about that. And now they're saying, hey, the law firm holds the data for corporations. They do the paperwork of finances, IPOs, et cetera. So they're soft targets. A law firm doesn't need to hack into GM. They can go find the outside counsel that does GM's work. Probably less secure, probably. So this is why it's becoming important. Now, when we look, you guys have your Law Society and different organizations here for your solicitors and lawyers. In the States, we have the American Bar Association. And this is what 1.2 million lawyers look at to see guidelines of how they ethically practice. This is where they get it from the Bar Association. You guys have a similar one. So the things that we found in the bar that recommends direction for attorneys of protecting data and stuff. One is you need to understand the benefits and risks associated with the technology you use. Okay, that makes sense. Then next one on the line here is you need to make reasonable efforts to prevent the access. That makes sense. But then you get into all the gobbledygook here of if the cost of employing this is too much, or it adversely affects the lawyer's ability to represent, and then you don't have to do it. And they don't say you don't have to do it, but they allude to it. So it's very vague. That's kind of scary. This is the organization that's directing the attorneys of how to practice. So then we thought, okay, well, you're a smaller firm, and you're trying to research and find out what's out there. I spent no more than a day looking at different links, and you don't have to write these down. There's like a gazillion locations of people telling you what to do and how to do it. A lot of us focused on the technical stuff, of course, and we really want to make sure we drop it down. When I was at that ILTA conversation with these firms that are talking about 4,000 employees, I'm just thinking that's not the norm. The majority of us out there have just a reasonable amount of staffing, whether you're a corporation or a law firm. Now, recently, this May, our ABA association actually said, hey, lawyers should encrypt email. Oh my goodness, really? I mean, I won't even ask how many here encrypts email because most of my sessions that I do throughout the states, most firms still don't mandatorily do it. It's kind of a pain. What's more important is, and probably popular, is secure file sharing solutions. We'll talk about that in a moment. So even with this day and age and all these hacks, the governing bodies are still just offering light suggestions. So when you're looking at your firm, when you go back, we want to give practical recommendations. It'd be, well, first of all, if you want to know technical stuff and how to configure a firewall, that's not the right place. But we talking for the sake of talking or talking about a subject, I've always felt is not a lot of good unless you provide some valuable information so people can have takeaways. So I looked at our corporation, and you may want to do your law firm the same, with kind of a high-level view to start with. You first look at your content. So, documents are the law firm's currency. That's where your money comes from there, is creating, disseminating documents. So take a look at your documents. How are they stored? How are they encrypted? Where they're sitting. And then I work my way outward. Who has access to those documents? How secure is our firm? And then there's another level we'll get into, which is beyond that. How do you share? Where do those documents go once they leave your firm? When we were doing surveys of our own customers, random, no customers' names included, of course, there was kind of three categories that we put up. And the first one is current, what everybody was pretty much doing today. They had perimeters and firewalls set up, Active Directory within reason, locks on the door, security alarms. This stuff was all, hey, we're pretty secure. Authentication. What's planned is more education. None of them has started the education. They're thinking about it, though, which is kind of scary. Education, password, better authentication processes. They're looking into file sharing. About 20% that we interviewed had file sharing. The other 80 were looking into it and looking at solutions. Remote access, better access solutions, collaboration, et cetera. And then over here to proactive, things that myself and my CIO really thinks you maybe should look into. Risk assessment for your firm. Have an outside party come in and examine your practices. The archive and delete of documents. Pessimistic model I'll talk about in a moment. Encrypting your documents. Scheduled education. And many others. So we've done about 12 of these in the US, and we're probably going to continue to do them next year. We all need to start understanding and thinking about these things more. The only way you can do it is continually talk about them. So when we think about who the hacker is, who's the hacker? It's North Korea, it's Russia, it's the Chinese. We always have these, they're out there. Well, who the hacker is. is really the employees with bad practices. 85% of hackers surveyed, black hat or white hat, suggested that their easiest means to get into some place is through employees' bad practices. It has nothing to do with a firewall and all that technical stuff that you set up. So that really makes you think about it. 85%. Lack of education, weak or poor passwords, shared login credentials. You got an admin account on a server and you just kind of like everybody uses that admin account. And if you're 5 or 10 user firm, the managing partner set it up and work with the IT company and he has that password. They just pass it around. But we got to carefully look at that. Upload to cloud storage without having a means to delete and scrub that data properly. And of course, not being careful enough with email, which is a whole nother subject. I could do an hour on proper email procedures. And again, more detail on this here. Interesting things, the 59%, nearly 60, thought that threat intelligence solutions were the least effective. These are the systems that sit there and look at your network and look for logins and different things like that. 38% thought multi-factor was the hardest to bypass. And then encryption was obviously the toughest. Perimeter security, largely irrelevant. Who cares about the locks on the doors, right? We're going to get in electronically. Thus, cybersecurity. So first thing, risk assessment. You go back to your firm, take a look at this high-level picture, take a look at your content, the context and the control of that, where that's at. A little bit easier with a DMS or a content management system of some type because you know where it all is. You can audit it and protect it and use Active Directory and ethical walls and such. But fact is, a lot of firms don't have that still. So in that case, look at your network stores and your C drives of employees, et cetera. So know where the documents are. Now, this is maybe hard to find, and this has not been done so much in the past, but documents that have sensitive data in it. Now, it's real hard to go back through 20 years of the firm's existence or 100 years and go find this, but certainly we can going forward. We can have a checklist that says, is this a public offering? Is this maybe healthcare related? And you guys will have the things, you know what is extremely sensitive. And find certain things to lock down, knowing where that matter is. In a lot of cases, maybe a general document that is a real estate purchase, and yes, it's sensitive, but not as sensitive as someone's healthcare information, for example. So then you can start proactively locking these sensitive cases down. I'll talk about the probably broader way to do that in a minute. Where does it reside in space and time? You know, is it in a central location? Or do you randomly and freely let people click and send an Outlook so that document is, heaven knows, once it's out of your organization, you don't know how many copies. So start looking at who sends documents, the access points, and what comes out. How many people store stuff on C drives if you don't have a document management? Where are these documents out there? So is it organized in a way that you can lock it down? You know, I don't know if you guys have litigation holds or legal holds over here. In the US we do. If you have client's data that's involved in something, the judge will say, lock the data down. There, zero can be change in that data until I say so. So the law firm will literally have to put a hold on this data. And if you don't know where your data is, it's extremely hard to protect it, let alone the legal hold. Where's your data on premises or in the cloud? Mobile devices, laptops. So premises versus cloud. It's now most of our clients are on premises. Very few, maybe 5% are in our cloud solution. Firms are moving to the cloud. And then I talk to a lot of firms that say, we'll never go there, we're fine the way it is. So I guess it's a flip a coin, right? Cloud is good. It can be good for certain things, depending on your risk tolerance. But don't think of this more secure automatically. So when I talked to a couple of firms about what drove you to move to the cloud? Well, one thing is no more servers on site and stuff. Okay, that makes sense. And then security. It's off of the IT director says, it's off of my plate now. It's in the cloud, it's their problem now. Interesting. So true cloud providers can have redundancies, firewalls, penetration, active alerts on everything that's happening to the data and logins. But what did we just see? 85% of hackers get in through password and bad policies of employees. Whether your data's in the cloud or on premise, that's still at risk if you don't ensure other things are locked down. So, it's a great idea. Cloud has its purpose, definitely. But you have to think it through a little bit further. Sharing products, file sharing products. Do you let, as my CIO taught me, the hard way, I guess. I didn't want to listen to her because she worked for me, but I did hire her for a reason. No more personal file sharing. No more Box, no more Dropbox, none of that. That's eliminated at your firm. Find a solution, you will have to pay for it, that you can monitor actively and see everybody's data share on their mobile devices, on their laptops, and then delete or remove that data from a centralized location. That's what paid-for solutions does for you. That way you know that if someone loses the phone, leaves the firm, somebody centrally at the firm can control that. How's your data organized? Again, whether you use a DMS or you have a folder system up on the network, ensure that you understand and it's locked down in ways that you can easily know where the sensitive data is. That means everybody playing on the same team. People save stuff organized in an organized manner. Maybe sensitive documents have a particular flag that they should be encrypted, etc. Again, document retention, archiving. Back in the day, you guys all have file rooms still probably, but some of you go back like I do to the day before all the digital stuff. Right in the cusp of that. And we had file rooms. And the attorney would request a matter folder, wouldn't be all online. And we created systems back when I was a kid, I guess, back 30 years ago, where we had barcodes on the folder. The attorney's office would be in the corner of their door. There'd be a barcode there. And one of the things we'd done in my little outsourcing company I had, and Pitney Bowes and other larger companies done this, was to track these, checking in, checking out. And literally, after the attorneys left at night, we would have staff that would go around to all of the desks of the attorneys and scan the files on them, scan the barcode, so we could track those files and know where they're at. We were pretty good back then about archiving and deleting stuff because with this huge volume of paper, we need to do something with it. So I guess the question is, have we moved that to the electronic phase? Have we followed these policies through, and are we doing the similar thing as far as tracking, organizing, securing that document, and then retaining, archiving, or deleting that document as they should? If a document, a matter is closed out, and you're past the time in which you need to keep it, and you remove it from your network, there's one less matter that can be hacked and exposed. So it's really important in this day and age. So take a look at that. Mark your documents, your matters, as this is normally done at larger firms. And here again, larger firms, you'll have a records manager person, a full-time person just doing this job here. So if you don't, everybody will have to pitch in and help with this here. Software updates. A CIO talks to this, all the details. I won't, other than pretty standard nowadays. If you're a smaller firm, you'll have IT company. Larger, mid-sized firm, you have your staff. They know what to do. They'll make sure that all the updates are properly installed. And it's extremely important. Antivirus software. We've been doing this a long time, so we're all pretty good about this piece of it here. And then leakage. Again, I think someone said, I say this a few times throughout my presentation, different points, but I think someone said it's 8 or 10 times you have to say something for people to register. With me, it's a lot more than that. But examine the applications that could be leaking data. You have a sensitive document. Where are points that could be leaking? Are you copying to your phone? Do your risk assessment. whether this is internally or otherwise. Meet with your staff and take a look at these documents. Create a procedure for dealing with documents from client intake all the way to the day-to-day working on the document, the group who has access to that document, to how you share that document, to when the case is closed and timeline to archive or delete that. Just some of you may have that, but create that little flow in the electronic manner of how you're going to deal with each particular matter. Make sure you have an ongoing risk assessment, and then shadow IT. This goes back to people kind of doing their own thing. Now I have an attorney, let's call him Bob. He's with a very large New York firm, does our patent and IP work, and a really smart guy, 2 MIT degrees, and the guy, he knows he's smart too, or he thinks he knows he's smart, something like that. So he was working on a provisional patent for us, and I was sitting across the table, and he was talking to my developers, and he was chuckling because he found a way around their document management system to copy stuff to his box. And he was bragging about it to these guys. I'm thinking, this is the guy that charges me $1,000 an hour to work on my patents and IP work. That's just telling me he doesn't listen to his own IT at his firm, which is a very large firm. So shadow IT, people, if you don't give them away, if you don't give an attorney a way to share, they will find a way to share or take it home with them, probably not how you want it to. So, risk assessment, that's a little bit harder, maybe more vague, but just take a look at the state of your firm, where you're at, procedures for how you deal with matters. And then the first easy one, kind of a freebie, is training and education. This is for everybody. This is mandatory. You need to get your partners to buy in. Everybody has to be in here and help with this here. And you need to talk about how your password policies, how you share documents, and a lot of good information here that we put online. Into my presentation, there's a link to that. You can have checklists and different things to start with. Buy a pizza Friday. Have the staff come in and start talking about this. And if you don't already, you will have your clients ask you, probably this is happening already, what is your cybersecurity policies and procedures, from passwords to working at home to encryption and many other things. So these things are going to come about. They will also ask your archive and deletion policies, your procedures. How often do you train your staff? Things that, it's none of your business, right? But it is their business. Customers want to know that you're doing everything you can. So if you have a procedure and checklist, whatever that is, that usually is okay with the customer because they know you're thinking about it. Password policies, oh my goodness. Whew. Where do I start here? So should I ask how many is so frustrated with passwords and hate passwords and how they work and how many times you have to change them and how complex they are? Okay, I wish I had an answer to that because I'd be a billionaire, right, if you had an answer to that. So I too have a lot of personal passwords, which are pretty important to me. I have a lot of work passwords from the various software pieces we have. And it's just, it annoys you to change them and then add special characters to them. We know why we're doing it. So my IT manager came in a few months back, a year ago maybe, and said, hey, Ray, sheepishly he says this, we need to start changing our work passwords here every 3 months. And I about blew my lid because, so you've already said you must be 10 digits, you must have special characters, you must have, you've already done all this, but now you're saying I need to do a different password that I can't remember every 3 months now. So anyway, I think we negotiated and arm wrestled at 6 months. But the reason why, when I started saying, well, why do I have to do this? Well, we do this because there's certain digit passwords. It takes a known computer program a certain amount of time to crack that password. And of course, going special characters and uppercase and numbers, it increases the time that the fastest known computer, non-mainframe, could crack that password. So the thought process of someone steals, wants to get in, they know a user account, and they want to try to break a password, then they could run through an iteration program and figure that out eventually. So by shortening that either lengthening the password or shortening that time. That's why you do it. So all the companies doing business with us, especially ones that go on our cloud, are asking that. How often do you change password? And I'm like, Jay, where do people get this stuff? Well, there's national bodies. NIST is one organization you go to, and they kind of set the standards for all this. And if they say it's every 3 months, then every client that wants to do business with me, they change our forms to 3 months and start sending them to me. If I want their business, I gotta adhere to that. So that's kind of how things roll. So I understand password, but it's kind of frustrating. So I remember back, 20 years ago, worked for a large financial printer company. And we had these little key tokens. These little tokens that they changed the numeric number on it every minute, I think it was. And if we were out of the office and wanted to get into our network, we had to put this little number in along with our password. That was 20 years ago. And I remembered that, and I'm thinking to myself, why are we doing that? Why don't I see more people when I go to trade shows, when I'm sitting at Starbucks, pull out their phone or something to authenticate, dual authentication? Maybe it's more common now than it was even a year ago, but we've stopped doing that. We should have been doing that the last 20 years. The technology's been around, especially with phones. So we were doing it. Our cloud division requires it. So we have a division that they have dual authentication do there. But my day-to-day secretaries and myself, I don't do it. It's kind of a pain, especially when I'm in my office. And keep in mind, you should especially dual authenticate when you're in your office, because you got cleaning staff. Who knows how has the key to your building? So if you're going to do dual authentication, do it. So again, larger firms, they got Active Directory, they got huge systems that cost tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, some that go on to your enterprise and will prompt you a second time and different things. But smaller firms, there's a bunch of solutions out there for that. And one I found that a lot of our partners recommend was called Duo. I'm not recommending this. This is what I told my IT director to install at our firm. So this right here is free up to 10 users, and then $3 a user a month, mostly cloud-based, so it took them minutes to install the software. So even a small firm could install this very easy. And what's so cool is when I go to log in, I now have the ability to approve. It pops up my phone, and I can approve or deny that login. Even what's cool when I'm out of the office, if my IT goes and does work on my computer, I get a little pop-up so I know they're there and I can approve it. What a great way to just double ensure that if someone steals your password, they probably won't have your phone and the login for your phone. This is something I tell my customers, if you're not doing this, there's other services out there, but go do it today. Have dual authentication. If you're a bigger firm and you have smarter IT guys that can handle those other solutions out there. So a great way to, and this is also 39% of black hat or white hat hackers said this was also the toughest to get by. Then all of a sudden, here a few months after I have this conversation with my IT director about, are you kidding me? NIST, the standard on policies and what you should do, comes out with a headline that just blew the market away. NIST guidelines banish periodic password changes. Are you kidding me? So now NIST says people will, it's exactly what I told, I couldn't see the future, of course, but exactly what I had this argument with my IT guy. People forget their passwords. They make it their kids' names, their birth date, their mother's name, maiden name. They do common stuff so you can remember it. We all do it. Or, if it's real hard, you write it down somewhere, because you got your bank passwords, you got your login, you got your work passwords. So NIST, it came around. I don't know who now decided this, but now they're recommending you don't change it so frequently or so complex, but and there's a whole, if you go to search for NIST, you'll find the organization. It's a great place, and on our website we have links to this. But make a longer password, harder to break, maybe more of a sentence. I loved my trip to Australia. Something that is not related to your home, your family, where you live, etc. But make a longer sentence that you can remember. Memorable password, you probably won't write that down. Phishing. So how many knows not phishing for fish? How many know what phishing is? Hands? Most of you? Okay. So phishing's another one. So you got education, training, have a pizza Friday, talk to your staff about this, password policy, dual authentication. Get that down so not just anybody can log in your network. You're shaving a lot of risk off right there. So the next little sneaky thing these hackers do is they send you these little emails that somehow gets past all of our spam protections that we have in place and we pay for, right? And they want you to click on that link. Then they gain access to your whole network, and all the password policies in the world won't help you once they do that. So here's one, just an example. Comes in a work day, I'm busy, and you know how it is. You have people in and out of your office, and you're kind of trying to get through the day. You got the phones ringing. And what? Somebody bought an iPhone on my account. I just bought an iPhone. What are you talking about? I almost clicked on this. I had my mouse hovering over this here. And then I noticed, wait a minute, it's AT&T. We use Verizon. I looked up, oh, wait a minute, Worldox.com. It actually came into my work account. Amazon's through my personal account. So it took a few seconds just to realize there's a few odd things here. So they're getting sneakier and sneakier. So these are things we need to educate our staff on. So these all type of messages goes to our IT director. They strip the links out of them, and then they do a firm-wide message with a big alert at the top saying, here's another one, watch out for it. So people can start understanding this looks so normal and everyday, but this is here. And don't take this lightly. We have the, I guess, advantage of seeing so many thousands of firms. I wish I could go meet with all of them in person, and it's kind of hard. But because of that, we have a lot of insight. And we have, out of 6,500 firms, we have about 3 or 4 firms a month that has encrypted data and got hacked by hackers. That we help them, we're not their IT department, but we give them a hand in restoring Worldox and getting them up and running. 3 to 4 a month. And they call us to say, whoa, I've been hacked, so, I need some help here. So this is happening quite often. A couple ways to mitigate this, a couple ways to help with this, not eliminate it totally, is eliminate all personal email at work. I don't know why we hadn't thought about this sooner. We all known about hacking for years, right? But I love having my Gmail up on a second screen, and I check it throughout the day. Why not? It's okay, right? We don't want to be, we want to be cracking the whip on our employees. We want to have a little flexibility. Maybe Facebook is a little bit too far. So eliminate that, and your employees will grumble and complain. If they want to do it on their personal cell phone device, that's totally fine because it's off our network. As you think through this here, these bad phishing emails are going to come into personal too, which has no corporate protection from the very expensive spam filtering we have. And it's just as easy for them to click on that. So, I say maybe this is not the rule, but cut 50% of your risk down by getting rid of personal email at your firm. Second one is sandboxing attachments. Now, does anybody use Mimecast here? Okay. So Mimecast has been around, a long time. Fairly expensive, but very powerful. We are an Office 365 shop. The value, I understand Australia maybe is a hair behind us in the US, or ahead of us depending on who you talk to and where. But a lot of people are going 365 in the US. The value you get with the storage and exchange and everything is pretty cool. And we developed for it, so we kind of have to be on it. So it has built into the E3 and E5 subscriptions advanced threat protection. So what this does is all attachments, whether you use Mimecast 365 or another one, there's many out there, it takes and strips all attachments out of the email before it comes down to your computer. Email comes to your computer. It's immediate. I haven't noticed really any delay. It then processes and looks through that entire thing to make sure there's no virus the best it can. and then it passes it back down, and the link now becomes the document. I don't know how they do it, but it's pretty easy. So there again, that's also helping reduce some of those attachment problems. You still have URLs and bad things you can click on, so it doesn't mitigate all of it. And others, you may have some IT companies you work with that have even better ideas than we have. But these are just some common things that are fairly easy to install. Least privileged access. So for years, how many have a document management system in the room? Whether it's, okay, many, whether it's case practice management built in or standalone. Okay, good. So for years, we have been in the optimistic model. So we've been in business 30 years next year. iManage also has been around nearly that long, and OpenText and some others. So we've been doing this a long time. And we all have kind of started in this model of optimistic, meaning I got a new client, set up my first matter or two, and everybody has access to it. It's just the way, if you queue my 6,000 firms, they're all like that. It's just open, and iManage this to them, sure, fairly open. So now there's a pessimistic goes completely the other direction, which is got a new client, got a new matter, great. Bob, Sally, and George needs access to that. So guess what? You go to your ethical wall in your DMS and you say these three people can only see, view, etc. that document. Now, the problem is a lot of maintenance. So times 20 attorneys, 50, 100 attorneys. Now all of a sudden, times a dozen matters a piece they work on. People change, they get a new secretary, and there's a lot of maintenance there. So something to think about. We recommend to our firms who already have a ton of matters, thousands, optimistically just open. We recommend that they start now protecting ones that have super sensitive data. While your system should be locked down and protected, that's just one further step. So if someone gets hacked, if this is locked down via Active Directory, your ethical walls, that hacker code can't get into those emails. They don't even have access to those emails. That's one further step. And then potentially going back to other cases and matters and logging them down. Unique user accounts, so extremely important to have individual accounts. Now, again, as Rebecca, my CIO, went around to see our accounts, the big accounts, 100 to 1,000 users, say, she felt comfortable there. She was talking to the manager of technology, the IT director, CIO, and they all had the right, things to say for her. But when she hit the 10, 50, 75 user firms, that's when she said, oh my goodness, hey, their login admin name is the attorney's name because he's the one that set up the system years ago, or it's admin still. Or it's reception 1, reception 2, reception 3, or it's summer intern 1, 2, 3, right? You don't want to give it a name because they rotate. What happens is you lose the auditability and protection of knowing who, what, and where was into your network. So everybody needs a unique name. Through your DMS, you have audit tools, but then through Windows, you have auditing tools that you can track. Remote content access, another thing that's extremely important in this day and age. Here again, my attorney Bob, if you don't allow them to conveniently work out of the office, they will find a way to take the file and bring it with them. They'll find a way to get in and do it. So make sure, whatever system you have, it may be a Citrix virtual desktop or something with dual authentication. Make sure they have a convenient means to get into their work. If they use file sharing, great. Do a corporate file sharing so they can drag files in, work on the plane, etc. There's reasons to have a syncing tool for guys like me that travel a lot. Sharing and collaboration, another one. So they're becoming more and more tools. You guys have ones over here I know that I haven't heard of, but they're good sharing tools. So ensure that your attorneys have proper sharing tools, not through an email. And I just Good old Bob. We'll mention Bob again. Poor Bob. My last patent I done, here is an Outlook message with my provisional patent in Word, unprotected, not password protected. And I talked to him next time and I said, Bob, do you realize this is a provisional patent? It can't be out to the public. No one can see this. And you just sent it to me unprotected in Outlook. And he laughed it off like, Ray, I mean, come on, who's going to look between my firm and your firm? And they're really spying on us. And just a really a vague answer. And I have changed firms, by the way, since these last dealings here. But I would say that not every firm is perfect. So sharing and collaboration. Make sure you have a good sharing tool to send a secure link to the customer. Secondly, on the sharing piece, we never thought it is a growing thing. So I guess I mentioned things that weren't on my slides a year ago. This is growing. So it used to be uploading to a cloud platform and sending a secure link was fine. We got it down. We share via secure link, and the cloud platform is encrypted. We're all taken care of. But recently, a large corporation in the US was working with an outside counsel, and they sent an email. In with this email stream was a link to a file sharing product. I don't know what it was. To the files that they wanted their counsel to see about this employee and the financials and all kinds of stuff. Well, this outside counsel forwards the recent message, which included all the stream, onto the opposing counsel, like, hey, here's the information you want, not thinking that there's a link sitting there. So the opposing counsel scrolls down through the stream, which shouldn't have been forwarded, and sees the Dropbox, whatever it was, link, clicks on it, and now has all access to literally financial stuff that would make you cry. I mean, really. Of course, the outside counsel, of course, probably felt real stupid, and who knows if they kept their job. So thank goodness it was to a law firm. The opposing counsel immediately said, hey, you sent us, by the way, all kinds of documents, and no, we're not giving them back. You sent us all kinds of documents, and there was no password to get in. I just opened it, and here's all these files. Thank you very much. It's a great discovery. So they went to court on that matter itself, actually, and the judge determined that that was now all non-privileged information because there was no password or security into it. It was an open link in which anybody that had that link could log in. So bad news. So a year ago, we didn't talk much about making sure that link you send. We work with Citrix ShareFile, which is a fantastic product, and WorkShare and others. And we used to train on sending a link. That's great. You're protected. Now it's always have the login. Force the client to log in and enter a password. Give them a key, security key, etc., to log in. Bring your own device. Again, this is almost as bad as passwords for me. Who invented this? Who invented this? I remember the day, and maybe I date it myself, but BlackBerry, right? Okay, I date myself. But when I was chief technology officer at this large financial printing company, we had over 5,000 employees, and it was BlackBerries back then. And I know my IT, they had control of enforcing passwords on every BlackBerry device. They could remove data from each device because they had potential company data, and the emails alone could be at risk. So extremely important that you take a look at better managing your phones. Now, there are a couple different ways. One is mobile device management, or MDM. They're getting cheaper, but overall, they typically are very expensive solutions. So at a minimum, many applications, a company we work with called WorkShare, a collaboration company, they have a great sharing platform. And what I liked about them, and my CIO liked about them, is she has a screen with everybody's devices. Every place I have WorkShare, my Connect app, and have data in it, she can see there and what documents and how much data I have in it. and depending wherever I'm at throughout the world. And at any time, she can also go remove or lock that data and cancel that account. So that's mobile application management. So you may not have the funds, the money, the bandwidth to put this mobile device management on all of your employees' phones. Maybe some of them don't even really do much email at the office, but that sharing app, if it's the firm's documents, make sure you can grab in and delete those documents. Extremely important. Intrusion detection services, again, perfect. Every firm should have this, right? Mandatory. We have a solution, a service that they professionally monitor 24/7 our different data centers. And it's 4,000 right now with the servers I have, and it keeps going up every month because we grow, 4,000 per month per data center to have this service. There's a point of scalability where I'll have my own 24/7 staff, but this was better for the time being. A little bit cheaper for smaller firms. There's a point where you may or may not be able to afford that. But it monitors every attempt login to your network whatsoever. And they're out there and they're trying to hack your firms. And they proactively, it made my cloud guys be able to sleep better at night because someone's proactively managing this. Now, smaller firms are probably other solutions that is much smaller. But if you have a network connection coming into your firm, you need some kind of firewall control that will alert you to these attacks. Penetration testing, called many different things depending on where you're at. So we were required to have this as part of the ISO 270, whatever it is nowadays. It keeps increasing, 02, 03. And if we were to recommend to a firm, we would say, yes, you should do this here. This is a friendly hacker company, really smart guys, that you point them towards your network and you pay them, and they come in and they try to steal your data, friendly. And depending on what you want tested, just your external network. If you have wireless in your office, so you let people kind of get on their phones when they're in their office, you probably do. You may have a guest wireless for your conference room, you probably do. That's another level. They can test the Wi-Fi for security. They will find down to the detail any patches that need to be on there, any servers you have, maybe that's sitting over there you don't even notice, but it's letting something in through a kind of a back door. That's good to do. So I recommend, you may not be able to do this several times throughout the year like we have to, but no matter what size of firm you are, once, put it in your budget initially to get a status check and a sense check of where your security is and that everything's buttoned up, and they'll help you remediate that also. Encryption, again, things need to be encrypted, but it's easy to say that, harder to do. There's several different type of encryptions. It's helpful. If you encrypt your server data, if you have data, if you're in the cloud, typically the providers are encrypted. So you don't have to worry about this subject if it's all in the cloud. Again, 6,000 of my clients don't want to be in the cloud quite yet, but they kind of would like the same security as a cloud provider. So there's full disk encryption that you can put and apply against your NAS or your servers that will ensure that if someone comes in and steals a hard drive, that they can't get to that hard drive. Copier vendors have got turned on to this years ago. You guys have probably heard the stories where, think about a copier. What does that do? Well, it scans the document, stores it to a hard drive, and then prints it out. That's the new copiers. It's really a scan and print device, really. So guess what? All that data in that document for a period of time is queued and stored on that hard drive. So a sheriff's department, I believe it was in Florida some years ago, donated all their copiers to somewhere. And they company had the hard drives, and they were smart. And they were friendly, thank goodness. They called the sheriff's office, but it made the news. And they had all the criminal records and all the files on people that the sheriff's office was scanning. So, woohoo. So Ricoh and Canon, Xerox, and now it's all encrypted. I mean, they by default. They start off with you have to pay for it as an option, then they said we just better do it. So make sure you have encrypted devices. There's container encryption that you can set up like a PK zip type thing that you encrypt it, enter a password, it loads as a drive, stores stuff. And then there's line of business, which is not fully rolled out yet in a lot of senses, like document management systems if you're not in the cloud. It's kind of a shame, but you're still storing a plain Word document when you save it in the server. We've started on about a year and a half ago on a project that all of our data is encryption. When you open a document, it unencrypts it. When you save it, it encrypts it. But it's a very complex subject. So look at encryption for your data at a minimum, hard drive and a server level encryption. Again, summarizing some stuff, the biggest factors that irritate hackers, multi-factor authentication and encryption. So that's a recent study and survey. How a DMS can help, I will gloss over this. You mostly have DMSs, so you understand the ideas that can help you with the ethical walls. The audit trails within a DMS will allow you to know everything that was touched for that particular document, that matter. Also, the more mini DMSs will not allow you to save anything except into the DMS. And that's, I would say, 99% of our firms have that. We lock down every application, and they must be saved in the DMS. Now, attorneys hate it, right? Because they want to just save the C drive and be done with it. But the problem is you either protect your content or you don't. So everybody has to buy in to a singular place and a unified approach to saving data so that you can audit it, you can put security around it, etc. Again, I will not talk to all this. This is online, so you can go over, but talk about your updates, your password changes, how often, just kind of a checklist. Are users allowed to delete documents? Most DMSs has built in the option to recovery bin. So users can delete, but then IT has an override before it's actually deleted. Can you connect external media to your PCs? I mean, there's many more things on this list. Flash drives. I know firms that have went through in the desktop computers and literally cut the wires to the USB ports on the computers because they couldn't tell people not to bring something in. I mean, it's pretty easy to sneak in a little flash drive. We have them all over the place and pop it in the PC. You're logged in, you have rights. I'm Ray. I can copy anything I want to this and take it with me. So there's a risk there. And you need to consider a lot of those options. Mandatory education program. If you don't have one, say you do, and start doing it, even if it's once a year and it's a Pizza Friday. Education for cybersecurity. Yes, we do it. We are a firm believer in it. If you can afford to do it more, people love free lunch. Do it more often. DMS tips. Again, talk to your DMS vendor and ask them how to better look at and manage the audit trail information. How to use their ethical walls piece to lock down to make it more pessimistic locking within your firm. And a lot of firms we had, our system and as others will link with Active Directory from Microsoft. So when I'm logged in, the Microsoft servers know exactly what rights I have. Well, some of these smaller firms that drove my CIO crazy, they wouldn't link our system with Active Directory. So our DMS would say only Joe can access those documents, yet my Microsoft login said I can go anywhere I want in the network. So you're going through the back door. So make sure Active Directory is linked to your content management systems. Again, look at different ways to harden your resources. At the end of the day, whatever your map looks like, you want to take that 20,000-foot view of your firm from your content, from your intellectual property, take that and start working your way outwards. How is that protected? Who has access to it? From ethical walls and Active Directory, like I mentioned, give them proper mobility, which there's a gazillion ways to get in, make sure it's secure, and they have access to those documents. Personal file sync. Yeah, this wasn't available years ago, right? 10 years ago, but now, yeah, I have a great DMS and I have logins any way I can think of with my phone, etc. But there's uses to sync files to my phone. I'm on the plane on the way over here. I want to look at my presentation, etc. I want that handy there. So don't not give your firm access, or people will find a way around it. And that is it. Trying to keep this close to an hour here. Link in the bottom here. If you guys want this material and other stuff, as we find it, we kind of put it up here for our clients. Feel free to go to this link and grab the stuff, and hopefully a few of these things you can go back and use. Yes? No, you make a good point there. You want the firm at that address to instantiate their own account through that platform. Well, so check this out. OneDrive, I'll tag on that little message there. Microsoft OneDrive, free, and you can share stuff. Right-click and just share it through OneDrive. There, unless you have a very high level of SharePoint expertise, you can't force a password with it. It just sends a link out. Oh my goodness. So, yeah. Yeah, great point.
Another comment part of the question I would be interested when you said there's a very, very simple thing about usernames and so on. With Microsoft default, as everyone would know, is my name is John Kendrick, so log on to John P, my email is johnp@everybody.com, the entire system is set up like that unless your IT person or you force something different. And I had an experience many years ago of looking into surveys and seeing the 100,000 attempts to break into my server every bloody night, and they use admin, administrator, clerk, reception, John, Bill, Sue, Fred.
Okay.
They're trying anything, and they try all the common stuff, and they know exactly what the Microsoft is. So what we did immediately was, okay, we kept our reception at Frederick Lawyers, but it's no longer logged on to reception, it's logged on to some other weird, fancy, long-on name characters, right? So that, they can't even get to the
Yeah, good point.
guess the password stage, and they can't actually get
They can't get the username. Yeah.
And the username, to me, is the key, because, they've got ways of guessing passwords, and they've got to get past the username first. So that, I'm just reinforcing what you said about call your server something completely different from your administrator is not administrator, it's something else.
Yeah. Delete the administrator name, period. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rename it.
Have your log-on name, and the most important thing I thought was, for God's sake, actually your log-on name is different from your email name. Because Microsoft default.
Yeah. Good idea, but interview 1,000 firms, it's the same name. It's hard for people to do. I use some total different alphanumeric name. Yeah, that would be hard, but that's a proper idea. I even have a problem with. Yeah, I even have a problem with on that subject, single sign-on. So everybody's asking, do a single sign-on? You know what that means is I log in as Ray in Windows, and every application from my case management to document, it all logs in for me. I don't know, I'm just like, if someone gets that password, all of a sudden now it has a password for all my applications in my firm. So I know it's a standard way of doing things now, people want that, but because it's convenient. So we have that option too. And our clients, I would not have clients today because absolutely they wanted to sign on with the exact same name as the network. Convenience. Now, a lot of this may change as we all get more personal instances of security breaches. This Equifax thing. You guys know, you heard about the Equifax release? No? I didn't mention that, did I? I do so many of these, I sometimes get out of track. So Equifax is a credit tracking agency in the US. And TransUnion, Equifax, and there's one other. And I don't know whoever gave them permission, because I didn't, but to track my information. All credit cards I've ever had, all home loans, all car loans, they have. So much detail that I went on to get my credit report once to see what was on there. One of the questions was a street address from the house I grew up in until about 10 years old. I mean, 40 years ago, I mean, I didn't even have credit back then. So these three agencies hold that data. When I go to get a home loan or car loan, they will call them and say, how's Ray's credit? You know, and I don't know how they got this much power. So Equifax just had 142 million American records released. And I guess you guys don't really quite have an equivalent, some of my colleagues over here said, but it's scary. So, you know, they're saying go down and freeze your credit, you know, and I didn't even know I could freeze my credit reporting. So when you go to freeze your credit, which I recommend my family members do immediately, the questions asked to verify that they're you are stuff that's got leaked in the credit report. So, you know, I don't even know what to say. I really don't. It just boggles my mind. But, you know, then people can open up credit cards in your name. They have everything, your social security, your driver's license. So it's becoming more personal. So this security is everybody's problem. It doesn't have to be technical. I'm not super technical, but it has to be diligence on everybody's part. So thank you so much. I think I'll be at the speaker's corner if you guys have other questions and such.